The marketing strategy of CD Projekt Red seems to follow 3 rules. Give the people what they want, never miss an opportunity, and never compromise. The first rule is the most obvious. Not only did they unveil that Keanu Reeves, one of the most likable actors in the world, was going to be in Cyberpunk, and not only did they bring him to the E3 presentation, but it's been confirmed that his amount of dialogue in the game is second only to the main character itself. Never missing an opportunity means that if there's a way to make themselves more likable, then they'll probably do that 100% of the time. When rumors had circulated that Cyberpunk would adopt a games as a service business model, they made a statement about how players should expect nothing less than the quality they brought to the Witcher series, and that the company leaves greed and bullshit to others. It's worth mentioning that this announcement was made during the Battlefront 2 controversy at the end of 2017. Their legitimate marketing strategy is just wait until another company fucks up, then promise to do the opposite. Once again, never want to miss an opportunity. Lastly, this is the studio that refuses to compromise. Cyberpunk was officially announced in 2012, meaning this game has been in varying stages of development for 8 years. They announced this shit 3 years before the third Witcher game was even released. Their mentality of simply developing a game until it's finished seems to be working thus far, as many industry insiders have been in awe after seeing it in action. You could even say it's taken their breath away. To top all of this off, one of the developers told players to wait until after the game has released to make the purchase because they are so fucking confident about their reviews. Put simply, this studio is the undisputed chat of this industry. Obviously I could talk about their marketing strategy all day, but the point I'm getting to is it was this exceptional reputation that led me to finally purchase Thronebreaker, the single player RPG card game based off of Gwent from The Witcher 3. This is something that I previously skipped in favor of other offerings, but in the relative downtime of the mid-year, I considered this a perfect opportunity to give it some attention. Thronebreaker sees the player assume the role as the Queen of Lyria and Rivia, and is set in the Witcher universe before the 3 Witcher games. The player navigates around the open world in a way that fans of a Pokemon game would be familiar. I'm personally not a huge fan of this system, but in terms of the genre of this game and the alternatives, I'd say this was done exceptionally well. The main gripe with this sort of gameplay is that a lot of the time is just spent walking and picking up resources, such as wood or gold, and as someone who's not necessarily a person who likes collectibles in games, this wasn't a particularly thrilling experience. Although, the thought of just stealing shit from every peasant I found did make it a lot more digestible. Those idiots should have thought about their choices when they weren't born into royalty. Another minor complaint is that there wasn't a mini-map, and it was sometimes a pain to keep opening up the map instead of just following a marker. With this being said, the maps are designed in such a way that usually just knowing the direction of an objective was enough to find the way there. This was obviously a conscious decision, and looking back, it can be appreciated. The biggest way the game redeems the open world in my eyes was how often the player is stopped to make a judgment on townsfolk or to make decisions with uncertain consequences. In this scenario, the player comes across 2 nobles fighting over a plot of land. The advisor informs you that one of the families has the legal title to the area, although the other is a loyal supporter that has been very generous to your cause. Acting like a benevolent monarch, I of course sided with the noble who was giving me money and told the rightful owner to eat shit. Players will have a hard time walking 5 minutes without dealing with similar disputes, and every one of them never overstayed their welcome. We then get to the combat. The problem with trying to convey why a game like this is enjoyable is like trying to watch and enjoy a sport you've never seen before. The nuances of each move simply get lost on people unless they know the properties of each card. Although as a huge fan of strategy games, I found it an absolute delight once everything started to click. And like any good game in the genre, the most fun was had once a player is required to keep track of a larger number of systems, all interacting with each other. These filthy peasants aren't the most powerful warriors, but their tendency to be the queen's #1 fans means that they get drastically boosted whenever she uses her special ability. Stack them up, and a player can in some cases double their strength in a single turn. It's the seemingly less powerful cards that also seem to be the strongest in certain situations. For example, this card will equalize the power of every enemy on a single row, which isn't much by itself, but by pairing this with an ability that deals damage of every card of the same power, it suddenly becomes an absolute game changer in certain situations. However, the beauty of Thronebreaker is that a single strategy often can't be honed and perfected to be unstoppable. For example, this enemy has a shit ton of health and will always attack the strongest card on the board, regardless of which side it's on. All of a sudden, the strongest cards don't mean shit, and the strategy to win flips to keeping the other team stronger than yourself before watching as it slowly tears itself apart. Once again, it's extremely hard to quite convey why Thronebreaker is so fun, but people who can appreciate the strategy genre will be rewarded with dopamine hits that will carry them through the game, even more so than the story or the charming art style. The story, of course, being from the same developer as The Witcher 3, is better than I had expected. The plot is often unpredictable, the voice acting up to the usual high standard, and even the smaller interactions landing at least somewhat compelling. I'm not someone to usually give a shit about learning the story of some side character, but this often impressed me in this case. There isn't much more to say about this game that won't extend this video longer than necessary. The soundtrack is one of the best in recent memory, the gameplay is approachable and satisfying, the art style will likely hold up for years to come, and the entire game's campaign is roughly 30 hours long. If this experience looks at all interesting, and if you're able to get it for $20 or less, then it would be a true surprise to come out feeling like you didn't get value for money.
The club isn't the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, tripping fast, and then we talk slow. Come over and start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance.